Your Majesty, the tactical analysis you requested of the recent battle of Dara. What was, what will be, and what is may yet be spoiled by this report, which contains major spoilers through Season 1, Episode 8 of this turning of the Wheel of Time. The Battle of Dara pitted a large Trolloc army of 10 to 20,000 against an estimated mere hundreds of Shienaran defenders at Tarwin's Gap and Dara. The Dark's forces had numbers and the element of surprise in their favor, even though the Shienarans held the key terrain of Tarwin's Gap and significant defensive infrastructure. It appears the decisive factor in the Light's favor was the presence of at least two very powerful channelers providing vastly superior firepower. So vast, in fact, it overcame several tactical errors on the part of the Lights. A strict partition of Dara's command structure, coupled with a lack of understanding of their overall capabilities, led to an unfortunate, nearly disastrous, suboptimal deployment of their troops. The Shienaran battle plan presumed inevitable tactical defeat at Dara, and sought to use delaying tactics to slow the advance of the Trollocs into Shienar long enough for the reinforcements from the Shienaran capital Falmaran to win ultimate victory for the Light. Agelmar, Lord of Dara, first deployed his spearmen to the key terrain and defensive infrastructure at Tarwin's Gap. Using crossbows, their alternate weapons, he sought to slow the Trollocs' advance. Second, as pointed out by Fen Bogarty, Major Reborn, of Twitter of Time, Lady Amalisa positioned herself and her channelers outside the city walls, but just in range of her ranged siege equipment. Her initial intent appeared to be to use harassing ranged attacks to initially slow the Trollocs' advance, but ultimately draw the Trollocs to mass and attack her there, placing them squarely in range of her siege equipment, which she believed to be her most effective, yet not decisive, capability. Instead, the Lady Amalisa, drawing almost exclusively from at least two very powerful but untrained female channels she was linked with, delivered a rolling wave of lightning that vaporized thousands of Trollocs in a matter of seconds. According to concurrent accounts, she continued to deliver smaller lightning strikes that killed the straggler Trollocs, but burned out herself and at least two other weaker channelers soon after. Here was the flaw of the plan, because it was in fact the channelers who proved to be the most effective capability. Indeed, the channelers were unexpectedly decisive, making the use of the siege equipment and continuation of the delaying strategy entirely unnecessary. Even if Lady Amalisa realized her channelers could be decisive well before the battle, Lord Agelmar may have never received this critical information, as his forces were separated from the Lady Amalisa's and under his command at Tarwin's Gap. Many have pointed out the channelers should have been placed on top of the wall at Tarwin's Gap, sparing Lord Agelmar's spearmen from being decimated. Indeed, the Shienarans should have done so, but they did not, because they did not realize that the channelers, 1, were their most effective capability, and 2, could be decisive and secure total victory. The Shienarans could have switched from a defense-in-depth strategy that divided their forces relatively evenly between 3 lines under separate command structures, and instead employed a unified command structure that massed the majority of their forces at the decisive choke point of Tarwin's Gap. There is also some debate on whether the Lady Amalisa, the last embrace of the mother welcome her home, would have been able to deliver such a decisive strike without drawing so much of the One Power that she was unable to release it, leading to her burning out. This, of course, would make such a plan less than ideal. She likely could have caused near decisive damage to the Trollocs with less of the One Power, and avoid burning out. But we will never know for certain. Ultimately, the Light was victorious, and that is what matters most. Shienar will need to reassign personnel to Dara to ensure they maintain control of Tarwin's Gap, by far the most strategically important terrain in all the Westlands. We stand ready to advise your Majesty on possible messages to send to Falmaran, ranging from a simple polite advisement of our perspective to the offer of assigning military advisors to Dara. This, of course, would be predicated upon Cairhien sending an equal number of similarly capable advisors to maintain the balance of power along our mutual border. Your Majesty, this concludes our report. My ladies and lords of the Westlands, rulers from sundry lands, if you find the reports my clerks and I produce to be helpful as you labor in the service of your people, do honor us with your raised thumbs and subscriptions. Until our next report.